So anyway, how can we heal it, Angela? I know you are an
Oh
expert
yes, my
there.
my favorite modality of healing, and it took. That's how I discovered the secret, really, to not doing the same thing again.
Like
In healing,
85% of the things we think are the same things every day, and that's such a lot of thoughts. And if those thoughts are not serving you, which often they are not, and even in successful people, and even in people who don't necessarily think that their well-being is poor, you'll still have patterns that are not serving you. So anyway, how can we heal it, Angela? I know you are an
oh
expert
yes, my
there.
my favorite modality of healing, and it took me. I'll tell you, I didn't even know. I've heard of the inner child. We all heard of that before, but it was actually in my early 30s when I finally saw the repeat pattern. Like I had two toxic relationships in my 20s, and I actually stopped. I said I could give myself a break. I said I'd heal properly. I stopped dating for a while. So I did that anyway, and after about a year and a half, I decided I'm ready to let somebody in. And there were so many similarities with this new guy, and I was just like, oh my god, there's something going on here. I was actually doing so much research on narcissists actually at this time when I was doing my healing. So I was like, there's something so familiar here. And I realized this guy was a narcissist again, and I'm like, whoa, I healed. Why am I attracting another narcissist? And at the same time, I was being pushed out of my job by a narcissistic boss. So I was like, there has to be a reason because of this. I thought I actually physically healed from this, but obviously I didn't. That's when I discovered inner child healing, and I discovered that my wounded inner child was the reason I attracted narcissistic relationships. And it was because of her feeling a lack of self-love and self-worth that she, I suppose, looked everywhere she could for love. But because narcissists can be so alluring with their lies, I found myself so trusting. And that's how I discovered the secret, really, to not doing the same thing again. In healing my unworthiness, in healing my inner child, in loving myself, I'm able to attract healthier relationships towards me now. Because I was attracting not just romantic narcissists, I was attracting them in the workplace, but also in friends and family members. So they were everywhere. And I was like, there has to be some kind of common denominator, and the common denominator was my wounded inner child. And the most special thing, inner child healing can be difficult because we actually have to face what has damaged us. But it's so enlightening as well, because you get to bring out that playful side, you get to reparent and love your inner child, you just get to relive that youthful energy again. Because another thing actually that I'm reminded of here, you might have had the perfect childhood, but you were told to grow up just too quickly because you had to do it. Don't cry at a certain age, or you can't watch cartoons from this age. You have to grow up. You have to get a job. You have to get this. That's suppression of the inner child. That alone can actually lead to damage when you grow up. So the main objective of reparenting your inner child is sending that love back to yourself. But one of the most beautiful things is that you get to live in a kind of a childlike wonder for life again. Because when you get to love your inner child, you get to love yourself, and then you get to see the world around you with the eyes of love. So you go from a constant, before we do the healing, everything seems the same. Everything is just this repeated pattern over and over again. It seems like nothing ever changes, because we're living in a box, a self-protective box, away from our own thoughts, really. But when we
our own thoughts are it's something like 85% of the things we think are the same things every day, and that's such a lot of thoughts. And if those thoughts are not serving you, which often they are not, and even in successful people, and even in people who don't necessarily think that their well-being is poor, you'll still have patterns that are not serving you. Yeah. Sorry.
That's the factor. No, you're right. I'm glad it's about seeing the repeated patterns. But the simple things, and I mentioned this the other day, the abandonment wound and rejection wound can creep up in the most inobvious of places. Like I was really, when I was a kid, I used to cry myself to sleep at night because I was afraid I'd miss the bus, you know, after school. And it was really, really, really bad. And I just had a fear of buses my whole life. And it was only after I went to counselling in my late 20s that she made me realise that was my fear of abandonment. And it was just like, oh my God, like the simple thing of the feeling of being stranded, the feeling of being alone. If somebody didn't reply to your text message, you freak out thinking, oh my God, what should I do? What should I do? People are busy. Do you know what I mean? And it's simple things like that that will trigger that wound over and over again. So you have to kind of ask yourself, what parts of my life, like ask yourself what the trigger means. Because you're not being triggered for no reason. You're being triggered because it's hurting some part of what's inside you. So it's showing you what you need to hear. And with the inner child healing, and it's all interconnected, that unworthiness, that abandonment, that rejection. So most of the time, it's the simple thing of meeting your inner child, asking them what they need, and then being the parent that they need right now.
Absolutely, yeah. So having a dialogue with your inner child, essentially, and that can be done through visualization, it can be done through letter writing, and also affirmations can help. So I am worthy of love and belonging, or rejection does not define my worth. So that is what you can do as an adult, you know, saying those things to you, but then also going back and imagining saying similar things, parenting. It's like visualizing being with yourself, that younger version of yourself, and saying the things that you needed to hear then, or explaining. And there's some NLP type techniques where you're taken back and you view a situation with the knowledge of an adult, and see what you can take and learn from that. And it's similar to inner child healing, in that you're going back as you are with all the wisdom that you have now, and sharing that with the child, and telling them that they're worthy, and telling them that they're protected, and taking over that role as parent. Because, you know, sometimes parents may not have made the best choices, but often, you know, it's not because they didn't want to. It's often because they're working from their own level of wounding. Exactly. And even if the parent did do terrible things on purpose, that was not your child, your inner child's fault.
And that's the thing. It reminds me of that Good Will Hunting. Yeah. You know, Robin Williams and Matt Damon. And like, this is another thing that I keep, you know, telling people. It's like, it's not your fault. Like, you know, and I don't know if anyone's ever seen that, but like, you know, Matt Damon's character, he had a really, really turbulent childhood, and like, you know, he's really damaged from it. He's violent, you know, he's always getting fights, and he's just so wounded. And no psychiatrist will take him on because he's no interest in healing, really. And Robin Williams sees something in him, and then towards the end of their therapy, he's like literally just looking at him. He's like, "It's not your fault." And Matt Damon's like, "Yeah, well, I don't." And Robin Williams is like, "No, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And that's the thing. Our wounded inner child, no matter what the upbringing, no matter what the damage, unconsciously the child within us is actually blaming themselves for the parent's behaviour. And that's heartbreaking. Like, and I've said this to myself and other people. You're like a 2-year-old child. What could they have possibly fucking done to deserve the damage that they've received? It was never your fault. It cannot be the fault of an innocent child. We're born a clean slate. You know, our parents have their own wounding, their own shit to deal with. It was their behaviour, but it had nothing to do with you. It was to do with their own inner wounding. And it can never be the fault of a little innocent child. And that's one thing we have to remember when we're going forward. We were always worthy of love. We were always deserving of unconditional love, and we never did anything to deserve the treatment or the trauma that we suffered.
Absolutely, yeah. So what other things would you suggest to connecting with your inner child? So visualization, having a dialogue with them, letter writing. Is there anything else you can suggest?
Yeah, well, one of the first things that connected me was inner child hypnosis. I actually found some on YouTube. Actually, inner child reprogramming as well was another one. So reprogramming meditation to help with inner child trauma. and inner child hypnosis to help with meeting your inner child and visualizing your inner child. And it is all really, the main objective really is to connect into a relationship with your inner child. So visualize a child in front of you, yourself. Picture yourself at 2 or 3 years of age, standing in front of you right now. And that child is literally looking at you going, I need a parent. You know what I mean? I'm lost. I blame myself for everything that I've gone through. I'm wounded. I'm hurting. And all that child really needs is a hug and a parent and a bit of love. And that's all you really need to do. It's a simple thing. And the best ways of bringing your inner child out to play is by getting creative, getting messy, watching cartoons, being playful, go on those slides, just do anything that brings that childlike joy out of you, because that's a great way to heal that wounding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people take life too seriously these days. I think, I'm trying to bring a bit of fun into school for the staff, because I think, that I think we need it. We still need it as adults. Yeah. There's no reason why we shouldn't sit and colour. There's no reason why we shouldn't play at the park and, play board games and stuff like that. You don't need to have your own child to have an excuse to play games and do, things.
Watch cartoons.
Things. Yeah. It's like getting in touch with your the fun side of you, because kids just see, when little children just see fun and they're so curious, and they view the world a different way, a beautiful way. And so if you can connect with your inner child, you can start bringing that into your everyday life and just being childlike, run down the street like a fool, or play on the swings,
Oh, I love going to the playground. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm fortunate because of my children, that I think that I had a long time, playing with them and playing games with them and getting dressed up with them. And they're getting to the age now where they're like, I'm too old for playing, but but I'm like, no, you're not. So we dug out the Nintendo Wii, the old one.
Brilliant. Yeah, I used to love that.
Loving that. Although when I was on a call, he was like intensely, because the only one I could beat him at was bowling, and so he's like, right, while Mum's busy, I'm gonna just perfect this, and now I can't beat him at anything. He's just better than me. Maybe when they go to the dads next, I might just sharpen up my skills. Yeah, but all that kind of stuff, you don't have to have a child to do that stuff. And I think even adults together should be more like that. Get the board games out. Definitely.
Yeah, like I love being childlike. I love watching my cartoons. I love being playful. I love going to the zoo. You should see me at the zoo. Like, I'm like a big child. I'm talking to the animals and everything. I love it.
Yeah, and actually, one of the things that I love about karate, because there's not that there are adults there, but there's not that many adults in comparison to children. So most of the training, sometimes we have to do like monkey crawls across the floor or crab walks, and we're playing games and stuff like that sometimes. And me and my sister are just like two kids again when we partner up together. We just have the best laugh, and it's that's what makes karate so great, when we're both there and we're just being childlike. That's what's great about it. Yeah, so definitely bring a bit of childlike play into your life. And
it's the simple thing of seeing the light, seeing the world through the eyes of a child.
Yeah.
So even going outside and looking at a tree, or looking at a butterfly or a bird or a bit of grass or whatever, just from nature, looking at an animal, or even a bit of food, eating a bit of food, you're kind of like, yay, so like, you should see me when I'm eating. I'm like this, like a little child in the secret. I love the taste of it. Do you know what I mean? Do everything as if you're still a little child.
Yeah, singing, dancing.
Yeah.
Even taking your shoes off and walking on the grass and stuff, because
I did that yesterday,
adult, and that is actually so good for you for grounding purposes as well, isn't it? And being in touch with nature.
Yesterday was the first day it was warm enough for me to be able to do that. I was too wimpy up until now, because the weather's getting warm, so it's just nice to be able to be barefoot again.
Doesn't care, honestly. When you see the little kids and in reception, and we've got what's called continuous provision, so they can play inside and they can play outside. And it can be really cold outside, and they don't care. They're playing in the walk tray outside. They don't care. They're having fun, you know. So nursery and reception kids, they don't feel the cold the same. They're too busy being curious. They're too busy exploring to notice. Yeah, yeah. But I don't like particularly going out in the cold.
I don't like going out in the cold. That's why I love spring and summer. I'm going to be back into my childlike energy now for the next couple of months. I know it.
It looks like it's going to be a lovely week as well. The weather's really nice, isn't it? It's really nice at the moment. So some other things that you can do for building on your fear of rejection. So reframing rejection. So for example, say you applied for a job and you didn't get the job. Don't take it hard. Just feel like, you know, that one wasn't meant for me.
Yeah.
Something better
they say rejection is God's protection. So if you're rejected from something or by someone, it means that you're being prepared for something better. So take it like that. That's the reframe there. If you're rejected from a job, it's not because you're not good enough for the job. It's the job's not good enough for you. Yeah. And something better is going to come along. And the same with if somebody goes to or rejects you in that sense in a romantic context, it's because you're not supposed to, you're being protected from that person. That person will eventually hurt you. So you're actually being protected for something better to come along. So that's the way I reframe it. It's rejection is God's protection. So see it as that, because you know you're just being redirected really into something better.
Yeah, and actually, you know, if people reject you, I mean, you can't be everybody's cup of tea, can you? You know, but if people reject you, it's either that you're just not their sort of person, and actually, do you want to be in somebody in your circle that doesn't actually accept you in your own can't say it, authenticity, you know? So you're better to have small circles than massive ones, because often, you know, you can't be as authentic. Well, I suppose you can, but more the bigger the circle, the more likely that people are going to be being ingenuine, to be fair, you know. And the more the pressure, if you're really confident and you've got a high self-worth and you're really sure of who you are, then a large group of people, a friendship group, is not going to affect your ability to be authentic. But if that's something that you are, you know, trying to develop, your authenticity, your self-worth, using your voice, being you, and standing comfortable in your own skin, then it's spending time with the people that make you feel valued, you know, that people that see you. And so if somebody is rejecting you, then that's an easy way to decide who you want to spend your time with, you know. So like you say, it's God's protection, isn't it, you know? Some other things, safe self-expression. So often when we have a fear of rejection, we have a fear of using our own voice. So we'll often not speak out or whatever. So if you're somebody who is a shrinking violet and you don't tend to speak out, or certainly wouldn't say your opinion, you tend to go along with the masses, then starting small but saying something that is authentic for you, you know, and it can just be something small, like, actually, I don't like coffee, or I don't like that thing, or, you know, instead of going along with everybody having an ice cream when you're on a diet, going, no, actually, I am on a diet and I'm not going to be led. You know, just small things. You don't have to get on a soapbox and start changing the world. And another thing, I don't know a lot about this, but EFT tapping can help when I've
tried that a couple of times. It can be very good to center you in the moment. So
and it goes along with, is it not affirmations? You say affirmations and you tap in.
Yeah, you can say affirmations at the same time. Yeah, it's good to kind of bring yourself into the moment. You know what I mean? Tapping certain areas of your body.
Yeah.